Hey, in this set of tutorials, I'm going to be explaining what modulation effects are all about. So what they do to sounds in terms of timbral changes and phase relationships, and also application of stereo information and width. We'll be exploring this with a number of different sounds, looking at what happens to them when these sorts of effects are applied, so you know the various considerations that you need to be thinking about when producing. And this is most significant, of course, when processing something like bass. So I'll do a more detailed example of that and ultimately provide you with some tools like a bass rack that you can take away and use as well. When I first started producing, I used to apply one of the modulation effects, chorus, to quite a lot of basses because I liked the sound, it added more presence, it made it sound cooler and less boring and dry, and I knew it was doing something on the width side of things as well. And maybe this is where a lot of you are currently at with it, and it's a great way to start getting used to the sound of an effect and training your ears. But the more experienced you become, the more you're going to want to know exactly what is happening to the sound, so you can avoid any issues that you might run into. After some time, I started to feel like some of my bass lines were a bit fuzzy and lacking in definition, and sometimes lost their meatiness as well. For instance, if I play this bass line now, you can see from the stereo graph here that it's mono, so there's no stereo information at all. We just have this line running down the center. But now if I turn on the chorus, there's a lot more width and presence, and the timbral shift is pretty obvious, with it now sounding quite different. And you can maybe also hear the kind of movement and shifting frequencies in there. And that's caused by the continually changing phase cancellation, particularly in the mid and high frequency areas. And I've turned up the feedback just to make that more obvious. This is definitely higher than I'd probably have it on the effect, but I want to make it easier for you to hear. But what this also causes is destructive interference down at the bottom of the spectrum. So we're getting a much weaker sound with less stability in these lower frequencies. These first two peaks here, which is the sub and most prominent bass notes, are now generally lower and also more varied. You can see them kind of going up and down here. And if I filter out all the upper frequencies, then you should be able to hear this as well. So you can probably hear that level going up and down there with less reliability. And this is definitely not what you want in your bass line, as they're the most important frequencies. If I take the chorus off now to compare, now you can hear it staying constant, so you always have that fat bottom end. So understanding how to apply effects like chorus in these sorts of situations so that you're mindful of this sort of thing and can avoid it is what we're going to be looking at in more detail in this session.